Timestamps are on screen now for any returning viewers or anyone who wants to skip ahead. If you're not already abusing Cypher for your split games, then you really need to start. Split is finally back in rotation, so let me show you how to carry with Cypher on split. Cypher has so many options for setups on this map. You can play on-site with some crazy one-ways and tripwires, or use elevate heaven positions along with some broken cameras to hold a lot of space and take free, easy kills and allow your team to retake every time. Blood potential is also great on this map, especially if your team plans for heaven. We'll start on A on defense. Some of the best cameras are this one here. It's a one-way camera that lets you see down into ramp, and enemies can't see it until they come right up into the doorway. Or you can place one up here like this, and it just makes retaking heaven against a team that likes to take control of it really, really easy. There's also a sneaky cam you can place in here like this. It's quite hard for the attackers to spot, and it lets you see into main and through into heaven, including vents. Or you can place a cam here like this. It gives really, really early information, which is great against any team who likes to rush. A tip for placing this camera: if you go down onto the planter like this, jump and tap W, you get right onto the edge of catwalk, then just spam jump and adjust your aim until the camera is blue and facing left like that. Tripwires on A, there's a ton of great options. I think my favorite is probably this one like this. I place it at head height because sometimes people can accidentally jump over it and the sky dog's gonna go underneath. But there are a ton of great options, so you can keep on mixing it up each round, keep the enemy guessing. One of my favorite tripwires for this side is actually on ramp. If you place it just here at the start of the round, along with this cage like this, what this does is basically force the enemy to take this wide angle around your cage to clear the box, and they'll walk straight onto your tripwire. Now for cages, this one is also quite good as a cage peek. You can jump on these boxes and kind of peek over the top of it. There's also one right here that you can even do on retakes. If you throw a cage like this, move around, jump into the boxes, uncrouch, and just mow everyone down and ramp. Another very popular cage is this one here. You just throw it up into the crack and it'll get stuck like that. Use it as a one-way on anyone running through the choke. And if you want to do a corner cage, you can do this one here. Find this arrow on the floor, put the cages down in the bottom left corner of this line. Once the round starts, throw your cam down in kind of the middle bottom of this kind of cardboard square. Face the wall like this, open the camera, wait for the enemies to push. As soon as you see them, pop your cage. Probably tell your team not to fight too much so that the enemies push past you. And when it's safe to do so, come out of your cage and retake heaven. And now for B-side defense. Cam everyone knows and loves is this one up here, and it's still probably the best one you can do. It's kind of like a one-way. They can't break it without moving kind of past or in line with this box and crouching. You can also see into heaven. After a few rounds of this, I like to switch to using this cam here. If you just stand on this box, jump off and place it on this kind of air conditioning unit. This is really good for retaking because you can see anyone in this back area position, anyone playing here, or anyone behind this box, or even under there. If you're playing in heaven, you can place one like this, which is really, really hard for them to break because they have to kind of look up and turn around to break it. Or place one on the other side, which is kind of a one-way camera for anyone who's lurking through mid. With tripwires, again, there's a lot of great options, but my go-to tripwires are like this. I put one at head height like this, so the dog runs underneath it, and then one here. Again, there are a ton of great options, so just keep mixing it up to keep the enemy on their toes, or to account for enemy utils such as a sky dog or a raised boom ball or something. But the reason I like to use these two the most is because I can place a cage here like this, and it has the same kind of principle as the one on the ramp. They're going to move around it to clear the space bit by bit, and they're going to walk right into this tripwire here. And anyone who tries to just run straight through the cage is going to get hit by this one. And it's in the perfect place for you to play off of it because they can't see you. Other cage spots, obviously, probably the best Cypher one-way in the game is this one here. Just stand against this door frame, count 1, 2, 3 in of these kind of diagonal wooden slats, and then aim at the wooden board just to the left of it and throw a cage like that. The reason this is so strong is because of how long this choke is. They have to run all the way back, and you have plenty of time to shoot them. But other than these two, I don't often use any kind of unique cages on this site. I kind of just hold on to them and use them as I need them or for retaking A. Now I just want to talk about mid a little bit. I like to play on B if we don't have a sage to wall mid, in which case I'll usually play heaven and hold space in mid and site. I'll include some more B heaven stuff now while I talk about mid. So for cameras, we already covered the two that go inside of B heaven, but there's also a really good one inside of vent. If you look up at this wall, just above this cable clip, this kind of horizontal line. You put your camera there. It's this really, really cool one-way that lets you see down into mid, down the ramp, and to the side of this box. And the enemies aren't able to see the camera until they're all the way here. There's this amazing tripwire that I don't see enough Cyphers using, like this. It's very hard to break and it completely seals off mid for the enemy. Just be careful not to place this one too low because the stairs kind of arch away from you. You can't place it at a normal height, so you have to do it like this, which is technically high enough, but any lower and they'll be able to jump over it. I do like to place tripwires inside of mail sometimes because they're really unexpected. This one here works especially well because people will usually path up here to clear the left side and they'll walk right into it. There's also a lot of spots for tripwires up inside of B Heaven that you can place. And if you have main control, you can actually play right on the corner here and play off of them with wall bangs, which is usually good for one kill, and then you can drop down and reposition. Cages are pretty straightforward for B Heaven, just place them down wherever you need them. Or if you feel up to it and want to try something with your duo, you can try this one here. Stand against the edge of this door frame, crouch down and aim at the bend of the wing in this crane, and then throw a cage there. This works really well for the player in Heaven. And now we'll talk about attack. For A, you'll just want to take early info with this cam. On B, you can get really good info with this. And if you want to go mid, you can place a camera on here, or deep into mid like this, and you can clear Heaven, mail, and this angle here. The tripwires on attack on this map are a bit tricky. The one on A is straightforward enough. You just have to trip like this. And this works both ways, people lurking out of A and people coming from mid to flank you. If you're going to B, then you can just use a tripwire here. However, this doesn't stop people coming from B main to mid, so if you want to stop them doing that, you put a tripwire here. I see a lot of people put a tripwire on this, but this doesn't work because you can actually jump over it by going on this box. If you trip like this to go mid with one here and one here, they can in theory go out of B, through spawn, through A lobby, through sewers, into bottom mid and then flank behind you. But if they do that, then I don't know what to say, like they deserve the kills because that's rad behavior and I approve. And now for cages, the ones on A are obviously really popular. There are lots of ways to do them. I like to stand like in the middle of this box of stones. The first one is the kind of corner of this roof, and the second one is the top of this tree. Cage triggered. You can use these to just take space if you're lurking alone. You can use the one on ramp to take sight with your team more easily, or use the one in the choke to take ramp more easily. These cages are also really important because your controller is going to need to smoke Heaven and screens, and they don't want to waste too many resources because they're going to want to re-smoke tower for post-plant. On B, you can just use a cage like this to make it easier for your team to get out of main. Or if you take good control, you can use these post-plant one-ways like this. Cage triggered. Or you can place cages up here by kind of using the signs to bounce the cages and make them land on the ledge. Cage triggered. You can even plant the spike here and use these as post-plant. Cage triggered. And lastly, for mid, I like to place a cage like this and move on top of the frog for a cage peek. Another really underrated cage is just to place it right in the middle of this doorway. It lets you safely cross to here without having to fight the person main or the person holding this angle from this corner. And it also lets you take this really unexpected fight by hopping on this ledge and shooting over the top of the cage. Lurking through mid on split is really effective if you know your timings and you're patient. A lot of the time the enemies are going to rotate through their spawn because on this map it's just as quick as going through mid, if not faster. So if you're patient enough and you listen out for the footsteps, you can have a really, really well-timed lurk up into B Heaven to come behind the enemies and stop them retaking. Or the same thing on A. And the best part of this strategy is if your team plants here or here, you can have a really, really easy post plant by playing Heaven, coming up behind them and just stopping them from defusing. So it's important that you communicate with your team and tell them if they can to plan for Heaven because you're going to be lurking mid. Thank you for watching my Cypher guide to Split. The best way to learn a new agent is to pick them up on one map at a time, get comfortable with them on that one map, and then move on to the next one. So if you are ever looking to pick up Cypher, I would say that using him on Split is the best introduction. Follow this guide and let me know how you get on. And then when you're comfortable, you can start playing him on other maps as well. If you want to see more Cypher on Split gameplay, then you can watch me live on Twitch, where I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, or you can check out my VODs and see how I set up each round. Again, the main thing that's going to change your setup is the enemy's team comp, so you should adapt all of the setups I showed you in the video based on what agents the enemy has. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
ايوه سلام عليك.
One enemy remaining.
Okay, nice.
Tripwire
Spike
destroyed.
down.
Cage triggered.
Nice, Cypher.
What the hell?